That's right. Too, you forgot.
All right, I'd like to call this Public Utilities Commission meeting to order for Monday, October 15th. Please rise, join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, any public input? Hearing none, we'll move on to correspondence. Anything that wasn't in the packet? All right, then minutes. Entertain a motion to approve or accept the minutes of the regular meeting of September 17th.
Second.
All right, I guess I made that motion. I'll make the motion. He seconded it. All right, any corrections, any comments? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, that carries. Financial reports, Bob, you're up.
I just passed them out. You can see we're into 3 months of activity. It says of September 30th. Net revenue on water is $160,000. On the sewer, it's $357,000. Capital expenditures on the water side, True Blue for $130,000. The rest are all just normal operating expenses. And then if you go to the sewer department, we've spent on capital improvements there with Weston and Sampson on that project $104,291. Again, both of them are in a surplus position, so we're doing okay right now.
Okay. Are we gonna keep doing okay?
The next month we will drop off a little bit more because there's not going to be a collection. Last month was collection, so it bumped up.
Well, can't we just send out some more bills? No,
You can't do that, you know, so.
Bob, when do you
Hey, I'm
anticipate
kidding.
the end of the year review? I guess your auditors are going to.
Yeah, they just asked for all the final trial balances
Okay.
today. You know, so probably in December they'll have numbers for us.
December?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, any questions for Bob? Okay, moving on to invoices then. Let's see. I'll put a motion on the floor. We have 8 items for the request dated October 15, 2018. So I'll put a motion on the floor to approve the 8 items in the amount of $190,501.79.
Second.
Okay, so take a look at that. Doesn't look like there are any surprises on there.
Just, let's see. Do we anticipate a report from Weston Sampson soon?
Yes, they had to do some extra exploratory work in the field at no charge. They just needed to verify some things. They were out there, it was a week ago, Sunday night, and I think they want to check one more thing, so they have another, they're going to try to schedule another date with us. I think according to the agreement, their report was due 6 months later, and I believe that was signed in May. So I'm anticipating getting a report from them by the end of October, and I will try to schedule them in here for one of the 2 November meetings to give us a presentation.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Rich, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor to approve invoices in the amount of $190,501.79. Those in favor?
Aye.
That carries?
Before you move on,
Yeah.
we received today the bill from the city of Danbury, about $690,000 going forward, estimated. That's 4 quarters.
That's four.
4 quarters, 690. And last year was what, right around $1 million, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we still paid them quarterly then?
Oh, we'll pay it quarterly, yeah. I'll give this to Kathy so she can put it on our next agenda to,
Yeah, but what he's
Okay.
telling us is down from $1 million.
from $1 million,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
And they bill it out in advance, so it's, I think the way they do it is an estimate,
It is an
and
estimate.
then you true up at the end.
Yeah, so we might have had an overpayment from last year.
That could be part of it.
So, I mean, this is due November 9th, but we make the quarterly payments to them, so,
Okay,
you know, I was surprised to see that. I haven't looked into the details of it, but, you know, it's $690, $210.
all right. And so that'll be a little surprise for the next agenda.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, thanks.
I just have one question for Tom or Kelly. What was change order number 2 for Briarcliff?
That was related to the pressure relief / sustaining valve. When you go up the hill, there's an interconnection.
Reducing, but,
Yeah, it was to work both ways, to be a pressure relief valve in case we overpressurize the Briarcliff side. And it's also then to be a sustaining valve. If the Briarcliff side loses pressure lower than the Eureka side, it'll backfeed into
For
it.
fire protection.
So it's basically to allow flow of water in either direction.
Okay. And that valve wasn't specified
Yep.
originally?
It was specified, it was only specified to relieve the pressure, and, you know, we kind of met on site and decided that it'd be probably to the benefit of the residents that the valve could flow both directions, in case, because there's no fire protection at
Do
that
you have,
station.
what was the cost of the difference of the valve? Was it just they had to change valve, or
They had to change the valves and pilots inside, so that's the total cost for 4,000, is the
it was 4,000?
4,000 to install it and basically troubleshoot it and everything, the whole cost.
Okay.
Did we get credit for the old one?
Well, that's part of the
Oh.
price, it's, you know, they credit it, you know, they I mean, they didn't change the valve, they changed the pilot, so.
It was the additional work in order to make the valve operate the way
Yeah.
we now wanted it to.
We're up, right, yeah.
No, I didn't hear about any change orders, so that's why I asked. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to director's report. Tom?
A couple things. We had our sanitary survey from the Department of Public Health over the course, about early September. That's every 3 years due. I think we did good, no major violations. A couple of minor items. He had a laundry list of comments. Most of them seem to be related to the Chestnut Ridge Water Treatment Facility, and which is really not being utilized and gonna be phased out. So I'll put together my response for them, but nothing outstanding really showed up. I think they were pretty happy with what they saw. Related to the Chestnut Tank, I have not heard back from the property owners. I sent them a reminder email, or just to kind of check in with them at the end of last week, I think Thursday, and have, again, not heard back. So I'll have to reach out to them. I don't know where they stand with it at this point. They may just be reviewing my previous email, which I talked about how the lot lines were not easily changed. So they may be looking into that to verify or not. So I hope to get some more information for next meeting. We did our dam inspections at both Chestnut and Eureka. Even though we're phasing out the treatment facilities, the dams are still owned by us, and every 2 years required to be inspected. So there is quite a bit of clearing work that's going to be needed. I think the maintenance, both at Eureka and more so at Eureka, hasn't really been done over the course of the last several years. So you got a lot of growth on the upstream side and the downstream side, and you do want to keep that clear so you can get a.
Who does that?
Going to talk to Kelly a little bit about possibly utilizing the building, rather the highway maintenance. They have like a flail mower that might be able to cut part of it. And I think the brush is heavy enough, we'll probably need a contractor to come in and do part of it.
I thought we talked about, well, you weren't here, of course. I thought we talked about this a couple of years ago.
We did a little bit of it, but we never got into the real heavy stuff. And trying to get the guy from the highway, who was since retired, that uses the flail mower, was kind of iffy. The machine was broken for a while, but we think he can get a lot of it with the arm, the green John Deere that reaches over the side. But I think Bobby's got to train somebody on it before he gets in those tight areas on the reservoir.
Okay. Well, I was not aware that, I knew we started. I didn't know that they didn't get into all of it. If there's some technical reason why it can't be done, equipment limitations or staff limitations, that let us know, get a contractor, because I know that we've got
Yeah.
it's an insurance issue too, in terms of dam maintenance, because that can come back and bite us. So-
When does this have to be done by?
There's no, I mean, we're not in any danger of any failures with the dam, but it's just
Yeah.
good practice to not let, you know, the vegetation grow on the dams.
Right,
The theory being, they get big enough,
yeah.
they fall in a storm, they create a void in the dam, or now you get erosion and so on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're looking at all stuff that's, you know, relatively manageable,
Yeah.
but beyond just a simple guy walking around with a weed whacker. It's probably some more heavy, maybe like the contractor that cleared out the right-of-way. Percy had a machine where that right-of-way from the train station back through the wetland area, that kind of leads to the Paul Street facility with the sewers.
Mhm.
We had probably at least 3 or 4 runs of sewer manholes cleared out with the contractor. And now Chris has been able to keep up with it with the mower. So he's got, you know, we have some options as far as getting somebody in there to cut it, and it just,
Yeah, while the foliage is dying, it's a perfect time.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, this is a good time of year to get in there. You
Yeah.
know, January, February when it's ice,
Yeah.
but I mean, right now, late fall is probably a good time.
Yeah, okay.
Try to catch it before it wants to leaf out again, certainly next
Right.
spring.
Yeah, just like you said, you did with the, if we can keep it up after that, then it doesn't become a big deal.
It's easier to manage,
Yeah.
exactly. Couple other things, the Briar Cliff pump station, we looked into a permanent generator. If you
Right.
remember, I had a quote for a trailer mounted. We got a quote from the contractor on a permanent installation, which that number was pretty high, I think 44,000 perhaps. We asked Cannondale Generators to give us another number. I got something today, didn't look at it all that closely to see what was in, what was out. It was on the order of about 20,000, so much more reasonable.
Yeah.
I do think we will need a wetlands permit
Permit, right.
on that. Talked briefly with Dave from Inland Wetlands. I think I want him to just take a look at it to see what he thinks either the commission would require or could it be
Yeah.
approved at an administrative level.
Because I Googled today, just before the meeting, how much would a Generac 16 kW, and, you know, with the transfer switch and all, it was less than $4,000. Okay?
Okay.
Now, I understand that you need to be a pad and there's gotta be the labor behind it,
Mhm.
but, and this was just Googling it, it's
Mhm.
local here too,
Mhm.
so,
Yep,
Yeah, 20,000 is more in line.
yeah.
that was about in line with
Yeah.
what the trailer mounted unit was, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll do a little more digging, and
Okay.
the problem now is there's not a whole lot of room down on that corner.
Yeah,
What's left after now that big boulder's there, and where you have existing power lines, you're in a little piece of
you're in a
wetland.
tight
And
situation.
you're in that wetland, which he would much rather see it out of the wetland somewhere, even though I don't believe that wetland has any real, you know, wetland
Yeah.
value.
Yeah.
And putting an extra heavy base to it should be okay.
Yeah, I think so. So, we'll look at it a little further and hopefully have some more information
Okay.
for you for next meeting.
Thank you.
2 last things. I submitted our payment request to DPH on that project, so we've paid True Blue now, I think 8 payments. So I've tallied those up and submitted them to DPH. Hopefully they can get that approved this month and we'll get reimbursed
Mhm.
as early as next month.
We're pretty much paid up with True Blue, according to this
Yeah,
recent
87%.
invoice, like about 95%.
Yeah, I think so. I think, was this payment in here? Yeah, this is his 9th payment. So I just submitted the first 8.
Okay,
So I'll submit 9. He'll probably have one more that'll cover him for the month of October. And then he may have one more, you know, with whatever
Payment, yeah.
punch list, final paving and all of that. So we're well on our way.
Okay.
And then lastly, we did receive the money from Deep on the initial I&I study and grant. Remember, we went through that whole process of getting that approved. So we received, it looked to be almost $210,000 back from what we had already paid out to Weston and Sampson on the original project. And that totaled about 55%. That's it.
Great.
Okay, question. going back to the financial report, have you had a chance to connect with our rate consultant?
I did. He got back to me with a couple of dates. I think today was one, and I wasn't quite ready for him.
Yeah.
I did want to get a couple more dates from him,
Okay.
just so I can touch base with you and at
Sure.
least give you a couple of options.
Okay,
But
sounds good.
he's responded to my email, so hopefully we can get together with him in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah, all right.
We
good.
can talk about recapping water and then trying to generate something for sewer.
Yeah. Okay, great. You guys have any questions for Tom? Nope, all right, great. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on, no new business to consider, old business, PUC capital project status. Marius?
Thank you, so I'll go through my list over here. Hoytsville Water Booster Station, so he's got a couple more items to complete. He's planning to have them down there tomorrow. It's inside painting, just painting, final pipe painting.
Actually,
He said,
repaint-
"Let me
repaint-
hasten to add."
Repainting, yeah, repainting,
Do we have to
so,
give them a paintbrush?
yeah. Repainting, but we're holding the payment, we're not paying him, so till everything is done.
Okay.
So he's there, he's gonna be there tomorrow. It's almost done. So Briar Cliff Manor Booster Station.
You know what, I hate to interrupt, he's gonna get the award for being the longest continuous item on our agenda.
Maybe,
Forever.
yes.
You know, we used to have in the knife industry, R&D would screw up, we'd give them the screwdriver of the year award. It was a bonus screwdriver.
I know.
Okay, I'm
I
sorry.
know, no, that's
Go
fine,
ahead.
yeah, but he's, yeah,
All right,
believe me, yeah, we're on him every day, and he's, yeah. Briar Cliff Manor Booster Station, so everyone else connected to the new water lines, all the service has been transferred. You know, he did all the services, trenches have been paved, and topsoil has been put down, seed and hay. So the final paving scheduled for November, but we're gonna talk to him because obviously, you know, he put the water line in and the services, he just put the temporary paving now. So we're probably gonna hold him to like a 3 month because we wanna make sure that the temporary payment stays in for 3 months, so there's a settlement, we could correct it. So he's probably gonna have to come back next spring to do the final paving and those, you know, services going in. He wants to finish up this year, but we're gonna hold him to the 3 months so we don't have any issues next year after something settles. But, you know, everything's been working, the pump station's been working good, there's no issues, you know, the residents are happy, so everybody's been switched over. I think Tom reached out to the DPH last month to let them know that everything was already done. So that was part of the consent orders. I
Yeah.
think now they kind of crossed it off and it's being addressed.
What,
really
what
good.
pressure did we end up on Long Ridge up there?
45
Oh,
PSI?
Long Meadow,
It's 45 to 55 at
45.
the end, and that's because of the pump coming on and off.
Yeah.
And they have
yeah,
less than,
yeah.
you know, 20, they have 16 PSI, so very big improvement, so.
Is everybody happy?
very happy.
Yeah.
The water main replacement, so we, you know, the 2019 water main replacement project, so we're in the process of scheduling the pre-construction meeting sometime this week or early next week. The contractor submitted shop drawings, so we're in the process of reviewing the shop drawings. And this date right here, so he told me that day this morning, 11/13 as it started, but since then we wanted him to get started sooner because originally he told us he was gonna start on the 22nd. So now he's starting on the 29th, basically shovel on the ground and starting work. And I think for this year, we wanted to complete Farnham Hill Road, you know, one street to be completed this year and then, you know, come back next year, because obviously the winter, get everything done next year, finish everything up, so. So moving forward on that. Number 4, additional groundwater supplies, Bergstrom Field well. So I guess, you know, we started the 7-day pump test on October 3rd. So that test ran for 7 days, and we ended the test just last Wednesday at noon on October 10th, 2018. And we communicated to the DEP. We've got permission from the state to actually run the test because they had some issue with some rains, but actually there was a very good period because we had little rain, you know, and basically they told us we can do that test. So at the start of the test, we basically started pumping at 906 gallons per minute. And at the 7-day period, basically the well was doing 853 gallons per minute at 19 feet of drawdown, which is really, really good. I mean, that's like great results. And, you know, we think that we're gonna apply for the permit at about 900 gallons a minute or 906, whatever the original rate was. So really good results. Based on some preliminary numbers and talking to Greg, we really didn't see, you know, any impact on the stream flow. The stream flow was pretty much the same. So, you know, again, we have to do the analysis, but really we didn't see like a huge impact that the stream flow would really dropped off a lot, which is another good sign. You know, we had a lot of the monitoring wells put in that we're gonna be actually reviewing all the data from, you know, the wetlands, how much we dropped in the wetland area. But we really, you know, just looking at the field, we really didn't see a huge drop in the wetlands water elevation. So So Greg is, working on the final report with Lauren, but really, really good results. I mean, over the last 7 days, we pumped, basically over 7 million gallons a day out, So really good well, especially equivalent to your Maple Avenue wells. The 2 wells you have in Maple Avenue, they're doing about, 1 million gallons a day. So that's what this single well is gonna be able to do, which is really good from the backup. And again, so the next step is to submit the final report to the DPH and the DEP. And then we're gonna have to apply for the diversion permit, and that's they're gonna look at the flows, look at all the data and see how much, flow we can get up the well. And it's gonna be permitted.
Maris, on that, are we going to be working on a backup well for there?
Well,
Once
we're gonna
this
be,
is
we're gonna be
produced?
working a backup well. I think we provided some numbers to Tom for backup well. I think that's something that DPH would like to see in the works, at least know that it's planned.
Right, because,
so-
do maintenance on that well or
Right.
something, on
Right.
pump or something, we have a backup well
Yep.
there, not to pump both wells, but
Right.
for backup.
Yeah, so that's something that I think Greg's been talking to Tom a little bit, and we have this conversation back with Lane being out there, and, but we gonna probably start working on that, I guess,
Yeah, the number they gave for that, it seemed a little high,
Right.
and I talked to Greg a little bit, he thought we could do better. And I didn't see the urgency to looking into a backup well. We don't even have this well necessarily
Right.
fully approved and permitted
Right,
and all that.
once
So
we, yeah,
I figured we had time.
but that was still the plan.
Well,
I
that was
think
still the
so.
plan, and that's part of the report, is gonna address the backup well, where it's gonna go, and Greg is gonna, because that's what DPH would like to see, make sure it's a backup well, and,
Right.
so.
Would this be the same diameter for the backup?
I have to talk to Greg, it may be smaller, maybe small, maybe something like, 18-inch like you have at Maple Avenue. I think I put it's 12-inch down there, so
Yeah,
maybe a
Maple was
12-inch,
12, and
12-inch,
this
maybe a
was 18.
yeah, it might be a 12-inch. Well, that's something we have to talk to the state, because you don't need to have 100% backup.
Right, right.
Because Chestnut Ridge is only using like 100 gallons a minute, Chestnut Ridge zone.
No.
So you don't necessarily have to provide the full backup, but maybe half of the capacity, which would be a smaller well, which would be less money, obviously, to put in. So that's something we're gonna review and talk to the state, what they would require.
The same depth?
Same depth probably, yeah, because 60 feet, yeah. So that's the communication we have going on when we do the report and get that going. SCADA communication study, so we received comments from the town, and then the report, we finalize the report, it will be submitted to the town end of next week. And then I think we can also come in, we can make a presentation to the PUC on the SCADA, if that's something that the commission would like to see, on the kind of findings of the SCADA recommendations for all the water and wastewater sites.
Okay.
We can do that as well, one of the meetings, maybe November or December, whatever works, I know, going up. And then Tom already talked about the Chestnut Ridge tank, and as the town was negotiating with the property owners, we also looking at, we had identified other sites, so we looking at those sites, we're looking closer at the Chestnut Ridge site, the town already owns the land, whether there could be a potential to maybe put a tank on top of the existing clear wells, fill it with concrete, put a tank there. We have to be raised a little bit higher, but 8-10 PSI, which we don't think is gonna be an issue. But we wanna make sure we can get this well permitted, make sure we can phase out the Chestnut Ridge treatment plant, and that way, then we can go to the state. We wanna phase it out, we wanna use this land to put a tank out there. So that's what we're looking harder and harder now, because obviously.
How much higher?
I don't know, like 20 feet maybe higher, the water level will be 20 feet higher than what you have there now. So it's like 10 PSI, 8-10 PSI higher. Because we don't want to bury it, it
Right.
doesn't make sense to bury it. So,
Right.
so the finished water elevation in Chestnut Ridge is 645 in those clear wells. So we would put a tank on top of it, and the water level in new tank would be like 20 to 25 feet maybe, So you'd be raising the hydraulics of the system by, 20 to 25 feet, which is equivalent to 8 to 10 PSI.
And it really would only impact the people who are on the low end,
Right.
who have the highest pressure
Sure.
on that zone. So we may have to deal with some maybe pressure reducing valves,
Individual ones
either
maybe.
for the system or for individual
Well,
customers.
what we did for Cindy Lane, we actually switched people on Cindy Lane. Cindy Lane was the lowest elevation in that zone, so we actually switched them over to Maple Avenue service. So we might look at similar situation here if there was a feasibility to do that,
The bottom of Milwaukee is the highest pressure right now. Where you get right into the valley where it goes into Cindy Lane, that's the highest pressure right there. So that's the area that would have to have something.
Is that zone valve closer to Cindy or closer to K-View?
It's on K-View. It's on K-View in Milwaukee. And
Okay.
everybody below that,
Okay.
they're right around 125, 120. So
Since really the bottom of the hole.
Is it possible to supply enough water to that zone using Eureka and rip out the tank and put the new tank in the same place?
I mean, you know, at Chestnut Ridge, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's something we can take a
Yeah,
look at,
that's
yeah.
kind of what, you know,
What
where
we
the clear
looking-
wells are.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
yeah,
what-
but rather than building on top of them, just
Oh,
rip them out and put the new tanks in the same spot.
Yeah, I think you're just, yeah, that would keep it a little bit lower,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we'll look at as we.
Yeah, look at the
get a
cost, I
little
mean, you have to look at
closer.
the cost, you know, what makes sense, what's more expensive, less expensive, to look at this alternative, so. But we have options, we don't have just this
Yeah,
one spot,
right.
we just, this was like a nice spot that we could have, but, you know, hopefully they're gonna come back and.
Good
you
to
know,
have
let us-
options.
Good to have options, so. Okay, well, that's it, I don't know if there's any other questions for me.
Questions for Mary's? Thank you.
Thank you.
Town fog update.
Okay, I included in the packet a document, I kind of piggybacked two separate documents. So the first 3 pages are my shot at a registration form. What I did was I looked around online and what other programs had registration forms and various paperwork. MDC, Torrington, Derby had some decent information. So I kind of gleaned from those and put together, I thought, information that we would want to get from our restaurants, food service establishments. So this is my draft of a registration form. For your comments, we can certainly discuss. If you have any right now, if you want to get back to us, we can do it that way too.
Well, my comments here is, I looked on the back page, it's the fees.
And that was my second document,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
that was a shot at, you know, some fees
Yeah.
and some violations and what some potential violations would be and.
I think they're reasonable, because we got a lot of kickback from the restaurant owners. We had the health department fees being reviewed.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, this is kind of very similar and it's coming right thereafter.
Right, but I think these are reasonable, frankly. But I think at the same time too, and I don't know how you would do this, but I think you have to probably in advance give them a forewarning as to what equipment is going to be required and an anticipated date
Yeah,
of when we would like to start.
for instance, if they don't have any equipment now, how much lead time are we gonna give them? We
Right.
can't expect them to come up within 7 days now and have a 1,000-gallon grease
Yeah.
trap installed outside.
Right.
And I didn't include that yet, I know there would be more discussion here about that, and I agree.
Yeah.
And we can be as generous as we want, give them 6 months, give
Yeah.
them 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I think 6 months to a year, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because right now, the Board of Selectmen, we still haven't finished our
Yeah, we got it.
health department
Yeah, we have
fees.
to vote on those tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Can you explain the violation sheet? Because I don't get it. To be perfectly honest with you. Let's start up the top. Registration fee, existing facilities, initial registration within 45 days. Initial registration from what?
From what? My goal is, along with what we just discussed, is getting out like some public outreach
So you're
information.
gonna have drop dead dates.
So I'm gonna have a packet ready that's gonna basically, I have like a cover letter that explains, hey, this is where we're going. This is what's already on the books that you should have been complying with. And we actually have some wording in our existing sewer ordinance that, you know, fog is not to be discharged to the sewers. So it's already in place, A, and B, the general permit from DEEP. So my plan was to get these out and as incentive to people, get us back your registration form, there's no charge. If you're beyond the 45 days, I want to charge you $100 to try to get people to actually give us the information. So that's where I was going with there, Marty. And obviously, it's not explained fully right here as you're looking at it, but.
And if you go down to violation fees and correction schedule, so if someone doesn't register on time, you're gonna give them 30 days to register?
For instance, a new business comes in, they need to register, we let them know that, 30 days pass, they're in a violation,
Okay,
you hit them up with a fee.
all right.
So the fee, the correction schedules, that's kind of what you found online with,
Yes, and there wasn't a whole lot of this out there, so I was trying to just pull from wherever I can and see what was reasonable.
Mhm.
And some of the violation fees, even some were $250 to $500 on some of these.
Oh.
They lumped them all as either minor or major.
Mhm.
And it didn't seem, I didn't think we wanted to go in that
Yeah.
direction.
I just wanna make sure,
Yeah.
so where it says failure to maintain maintenance records, 30 days, and then you got, what is it, $100?
Yeah,
So what happens is if you find out they fail to maintain the records, they got 30 days to correct it. They don't correct it in 30 days, then it's gonna be $100.
that's what my intent is here, yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I got it. And what happens if they don't pay the fines?
Well,
They shut their sewer off.
we can, I don't know how easy it is to shut their sewer off, but if they're a restaurant, do we have the ability to do something with their license? Do we have the ability to do something with, you probably can't turn their water off.
Well,
I know Danbury says they're gonna disconnect you from the sewer system. I don't know how practically they do that, but,
I think you could probably hit them with some type of cease and desist, and if they don't correct it, then, and let them pay for the cease and desist, and then after that, turn the water off. Can't have sewer without water, so, that's what I think would have to be done.
yeah, and if you can cross, enforce like that, my original thought was they're licensed to basically operate a restaurant
That's right.
through the health department.
I don't think anybody's gonna complain about the fees that you got down here. I think the complaint's gonna be, how much is it gonna cost us to put everything in?
Yep.
I mean, they gotta probably hire a plumber, they probably gotta
Yep.
hire an electrician.
I think,
It's gonna cost them a lot of money.
Cheaper to pay the fee.
thousands, more
Right.
than likely.
Yeah.
You're right. He said it right. He said it's cheaper to pay the violation fee. But that means you gotta have something to stop them from operating. Because, I mean, if you weren't here, but some of the Board of Selectmen were here, obviously, the fee schedule for the health department, those people were brutal. I mean, they haven't had their stuff raised in 20 years. And they were complaining, and wait till they find out that they may have to come up with $3,000 or $4,000. They're gonna immediately say they're gonna be out of business,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Just a gut feel, Kelly, would you have any idea? Small bakery, restaurant, they gotta put a system in, what are they talking about the money, any idea?
Definitely thousands, like Tom said, definitely
Probably,
thousands.
the unit, the Big Dipper unit that they put under most 3-bay sinks is about $3,400, the unit alone.
They're sized based on
So install.
Gallons per minute.
Yeah, how many gallons the sink holds is, because you can buy a small one, you can buy a large one. So, depending on just the size of your.
But you figure in 5K and,
You could, yeah,
Install.
between labor.
I don't know who would know, but is there any possibility that a lot of these restaurants already have some of this stuff installed?
Some do,
Some do?
Some probably do.
yeah. I know like Bethel Healthcare has one,
Yeah, I would imagine.
Pete's Deli has one,
There's probably a lot that don't.
yeah,
If no one's coming after you saying you gotta have this,
Yeah.
they're not spending the $5,000 on that.
yeah.
Then again, it's their sewer line, their sewer lateral. If it plugs up with grease, they're having to back up into their facility. So
Mhm.
on the one hand, it's, they're getting something for their money. It is worthwhile for them to protect their facility.
Some
what
would
they're getting
consider
is a constant ongoing fee of getting it cleaned.
Yes,
So it's not just the 5K, but
Well,
it is
I
they
think
have an
with,
annual.
I think with those
cost.
under the sink units, I think they have like a skimmer.
Yeah.
And you have to basically self-clean it. I think you skim off on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You put it in a specific container that then again, you have to pay to have that hauled away.
Yeah, rendering service.
And then the other places that basically have those inside, they call them AGRUs, active grease recovery units. Those are the indoor ones. Or you have an outside grease trap or interceptor. That's like a septic tank, basically. And those get pumped out every 3 months. So again, there's ongoing maintenance on all of this, which they may or may not want to do. And like you said, hey, it's cheaper to pay the fine, and we just have to deal with that as it comes.
The issue about.
I didn't say that, Dino said that.
But I don't see a lot of people spending probably the $10,000 to $15,000 to put a 1,000-gallon tank outside.
No.
No.
And they may not have the ability to do so if they're in a strip mall and they don't
Right.
own the land.
That's just what I was gonna say.
That's gonna be most of it.
A lot of the older places downtown here, there's no land.
A storefront on Greenwood Avenue, they're not putting a unit out there in front of the sidewalk or the street. It's not feasible. So there's a lot to it.
But I think as we go forward, we have to advise them as what the state is regulating, saying this
Yeah.
is not.
This is standard.
the town
Yeah.
of
We're
Bethel.
basically passing this on from the
Correct.
state.
That has to be really emphasized.
And what I want to do is continue to put together some information. I need to probably put together like an inspection form. There are some maintenance logs that we can basically, utilize, disposal logs, and then the public outreach information. I think we really need to, have a good package that we're gonna basically educate people with and explain, here's what you gotta do and why. So my plan would be to get all of that together before we're actually
Exactly.
comfortable enough to go out, like Marty, you had said, we need a public hearing.
Yeah.
So let's have all of that together in one, package, one final package that we
Okay.
accept and approve of and then go forward.
The annual inspection fee is a flat fee regardless if it's in-ground or under sink,
Yeah,
still $75.
I would think so. And again, we have flexibility on this. I mean, I'm proposing these fees and we could revise them as we see fit here before we accept them at the end.
It's a good start.
Yep,
Thanks.
so you're gonna keep working on that,
Yeah,
piece by piece?
piece
Okay.
by piece.
You guys have any
Well,
suggestions?
the only thing
Sandy?
is, with the inspection, again, I think you gotta look at how long it's gonna take to do one of these things and make sure it's reasonably priced.
Yeah,
And that means taking a look at your form.
correct. And, we haven't even gotten to the point of how are we doing it and who's doing it, and is it an outsider? Is it, is it town staff? Is it utility staff? So there's still some other, questions to be answered.
Do you know what some of the other towns do?
I think it's a combination, the WPCA, staff or the operations staff. So there might be some health districts, I think like the Torrington area, they kind of have a region-wide, health district. They may be the ones doing
But
that.
there's no independent contractor.
I got some more digging to do to see if there's someone out there that does that, like, consultants or contractors that do, restaurant inspections, say for small towns, or, maybe there are some health certified people that can do that kind of thing. That would be my goal.
Kelly, what do they do in Derby?
The WPCA does it, the health department doesn't want anything to do with it. And the complaints you're talking about are the complaints that I've seen being on the WPCA.
Okay.
People come in and say, I can't afford it, that's the thing. But one thing I was gonna tell you, you're talking about shutting their water off if they're in non-compliance. The problem you have with that is you got 3 different water systems. You got private wells, you got Aquarian, and you have us. So that's a little difficult because we can't shut their wells off, and I don't know what kind of jurisdiction we have over Aquarian to shut off the water.
Good point.
But another thing that I remember, I just got my sewer bill in Derby. They had a flyer that they put in the packets. So for educational part,
Yeah.
maybe something to start soon. I can bring I think I saved the flyer, just something to look
Okay,
at.
and I've seen some other flyers too. There's actually something targeted towards residential people, as far as people just not pouring their bacon grease down the sink and that type of thing too. It's just a good practice to,
Yeah.
so there are some good informational packets we can put together.
Just one last question, I don't wanna drag this. Would that be considered a specialty field that you'd have to go to school to learn, examination and treatment, or?
The problem is, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's nothing out there.
Yeah,
We've looked for 5 years. I mean, we've been offered help from Danbury, who he's like Gestapo. They call him the sewer Nazi in Danbury. There was a guy in Brookfield that offered his services to help us, through the Brookfield town. But there's it's not like sending somebody to a class to do backflow prevention. There's nothing there right now.
someone who just picks up the knowledge along the
Just
way.
runs with it, yeah.
A retired plumber.
Self-taught.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Okay.
Moving on, Supervisor report, Kelly, what else you got?
Couple things, 80 and 82 Greenwood, as you saw, both of those buildings are gone. They cut them on the property, the services, and they are aware that when they get a contractor to go out in there into the middle of Greenwood Avenue, they'll do them all at once, but they do have to disconnect the two services. And one sewer line is in the curb, the other one is out in the road, so they're gonna do that all at once when they get to it. But it is with the understanding that they do have to disconnect at the main. So
Even the
that's,
sewer?
yes, they have to go back to the main, and
What
even if they cut it right at the stub and cap it.
what about, as they're gonna progress and go along and put some buildings up, can they use the same connections?
No, they're gonna be coming in off of, they haven't really decided yet, it's still kind of up in the air, but they're gonna come in off of Chestnut. There's a 12-inch main there, plus it's a newer main. I think in the future, I'm thinking that 10 is probably gonna get replaced down the road. I think they're planning on going on the side. They have a couple things they put before us, but, we gotta discuss.
And I think their P and Z plans showed them coming off of Chestnut on both sewer and water.
Yes.
Mhm.
The other thing is our new employee started Tuesday. I think he's gonna work out very well. He's ready to hit the ground running. He's just kind of getting acclimated with everything right now. On the water side, we had a couple service issues, finding curb boxes and what have you. We've got one on Greenwood Avenue, one on Judd, but that's been accomplished. Hydrants, I'm just waiting on my contractor to free up a week, and as a matter of fact, I've got a call from him when I leave here. I've got to call him again, because I talked to him this morning. The hydrants are here, it's just a matter of getting a week open where he can get in and get them all done. Got them all called in for quality-free digs, it's just basically doing. And the last thing we got, over the weekend, we had a problem with the generator, or actually, I'm sorry, it was Monday morning, or
Friday.
Tuesday morning, Monday night into Tuesday morning. The tree went down and shut off killed the power into Eureka. Generator wouldn't come on. The generator is 40 years old and it's just not producing juice. You can't get parts for it. Again, that was put in there in 1976 when the whole plant was revamped. We've got Cannondale working on prices, and we'll look into other prices. We met with Cannondale this morning, but right now we've got a temporary generator up there that's wired into the system. It's not on an automatic switch over, so we would, once we get an alarm of no power or whatever it tells us, we'll get somebody up there, they can flip it over within 15 minutes. But even though the plant isn't used, we still need it for all the telemetry. We have to the wells and fill in the tank and what have you. So we still do need a generator. So we're in the middle of trying to put together some prices.
How many hours do we have on that generator?
I'd have to look it up. I mean, we keep track of our hours, but it's old.
It's up there?
Yeah, like I say, it's 40 years old.
It's probably more years in service than hours of running, I would
Right.
imagine.
Yeah.
Probably runs for tests more than anything
Yeah,
else.
I'm sure it does, yeah. And on the other hand, it may have run 5 days straight when we had some of these crazy storms come through in the past few years. But the thing is, they just can't get parts for it. We had a new day tank put in a couple years ago. We had a new transfer switch put in a year ago. So it's really just bringing in a generator and wiring it up. The only thing we are learning is the generator's got to be outside. It can't go back into that room. Plus, it's very tight door. The door is like 34 inches wide. We're very
What
fortunate.
size is that generator?
Yeah. It's better outside.
That's a 3-phase generator. That's
What
a big,
size-
that's a big.
what-
big
45 KW.
45.
Yeah.
Kelly,
So,
last thing is flushing the mains up on the hill.
mhm.
You haven't done that yet, have you?
No, actually, we have a contractor coming. That's the only part of the system we haven't done is up on the hills. We've moved a lot of water through there, but we haven't actually flushed from A to Z. And again, there's a situation with one of the soft starts for pump number 4, and we don't want to flush up there until we know that both fire pumps are working properly. And the company that put the controller in there is coming tomorrow to put a new soft start controller in there. And then I think we can flush, because we still got another month to flush before it gets too cold. But that won't take more than 3-4 days. But of our whole system, that's the only area that we haven't flushed for that reason.
Our new employee was an experienced person or not?
You know what, very experienced, I'm not gonna tell you very experienced, he had 3 years working with Blake Equipment, but he's got all the certifications for confined space to actually, if he had to go into any of the wet wells. He went into the wet wells working for Blake Equipment, and that's kind of where we met him, and he inquired about, getting on with us, and, He's got some little bit of experience with doing the floats, with getting into the controllers. He's not afraid to do anything. He has no problem with working with sewage. He's a good breed, and he's young. He wants to learn. I feel real good about it. I think it was a good choice by Tom.
A question about over,
Not mine alone.
Well, no, yeah.
Yourself and Phyllis.
Yeah,
and-
no, we
yeah.
had a good talk with him.
over on Pole Street, the wet well, are we looking into replacing that ladder or something that went down there, or was a problem with that?
No, we had the lights done in it. The thing we're looking to replace this year is pump number 2, because that's got the most wear on it. We got a budgetary price on that, but we haven't really gotten into doing any more with that. But no, ladder-wise, it's fine, Rich. The only
That's
thing
it?
that we're looking to do is grates. We want to put grates over top of the new grinders that we put in, just to catch some of that paper. I mean, yes, it chews it up, but every little bit we can keep from going into the 3 pumps, the better off we are.
Yeah.
There's one grate in there now, very, very heavy to pull out if we pull out, but we periodically go down and clean that. So we are catching a lot of it before it gets into the wet well itself. But that would, I don't think ladder was it. I think that might have been it.
Oh, I
just the
thought
grates.
It was, one thing I want to do, I still want to do, is a fall protection. When you lift open the Bilco door, up at Hoyt's, if you've been up there, they have that orange metal, it's almost like another trap door, but it's graded, it's kind of, it's open air.
Yeah.
But it would,
Yeah.
this way you can
You can
leave the
only-
hatch open,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get ventilation.
Like down on
But then there's a
Maple
guard over,
Avenue.
there's a guard over the opening.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to get those. And then while you mentioned pump number 2, I'm inclined to have the 3 pumps be identical. So that you're, for maintenance, in other words, my goal would be to replace that pump that's bad with the same type and motor and type of pump as what's there for pumps number 1 and 3, as opposed to bringing in
A different.
Oh,
a
yeah.
different pump
Yeah.
that might be cheaper. I'm not looking to, get the lowest
You
price
want
pump.
to standardize.
I want to standardize, so, I was gonna try to get maybe a second price, just so that we can kind of see what the universe is like in terms of the cost of a pump, but I'm more inclined to go with the identical unit to standardize on it. I just wanted to mention that.
One other question, backflow inspections. Are we sending a letter out to the backflow people that either the town can do them or they can hire their own private contractor to do them?
No, I don't think we have anything out there yet. We're doing.
But that's what we're going to do, aren't we?
Yeah.
We did send a letter out letting people know there were fees coming.
Okay.
And the plan was, I think, Ann was doing a test run to see how those fees can get put on the bills. When we do the inspections and they fail, we're giving the owner a violation
Violation,
notice,
yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
But we're not doing the repairs. I don't think we want to get into repairing people's units. So that he's going out. Oh, you were talking about testing them?
The testing, yeah.
Yeah, we've been doing the testing ourselves.
Yeah.
So.
But that gives, before we always did it.
Right.
Now, there's a fee, so, because there was a gentleman that came in and asked, could he do inspections on these? So it's up to the landlord or owner of the building. He could have the town do it or a private contractor, as long as they give you the paperwork.
They would have to be a qualified inspector and
Right.
have to see their certification
Right.
Yeah.
and whatever.
Because a lot of times it's to fail, the guy who's gonna fix it generally right then.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
I mean, that would, if, they go that route, it frees our guys up to do other things.
Correct.
All right. you know, we're probably more than halfway through this year's
Inspection.
inspections, so that might be something to generate a letter in advance for,
Okay.
for next year.
Because like I said, the gentleman came in and asked if he could, do inspections, and I think we told him, it's up to the owners of the property.
Well, we have to make sure, because of that report, we have to make sure that we got the compliance.
He's got to
Right.
be certified.
They gotta and again, maybe that's some paperwork you want. Does the landlord send the paperwork to you, or the guy doing the inspection,
I mean, I like the idea of us doing them so that we are there, we see what's going on, we kind of have a history of what they're doing. We can kind of notice if they're doing something different. So on the one hand,
For sure, they wrote back and said that things were repaired. And that was the other thing, we had to make sure that everything's repaired.
right,
Right.
and then, Rick has to go back out and do a retest.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else, Kelly?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everyone.